Hello everyone, as always it is good to see you. It's the question of the century. Did the coronavirus seep out from animal cages at the Wuhan wet market? Did it travel from an abandoned copper mine filled with bat droppings? Was it an accidental leak from a lab? Or was it a biological weapon that China has unleashed on the world? 18 months, 4 theories and no clear answers. Carrying the burden of the world's suspicion is a woman who is often called the Bat Lady of Wuhan. Shi Zhengli is the star virologist at the Wuhan Institute of Virology and has studied bats and the viruses they carry for the last 30 years now. She has a PhD from France and in 2020 was one of Time magazine's list of 100 most influential people in the world. Did the virus leak from the lab of this world-renowned virologist? Was it a lab leak at all? And what has pushed the United States of America to discard the WHO report and reinvestigate the origins of the coronavirus? A full debrief on that in the next 30 minutes. Let's start with the Bat Lady of Wuhan, the most important piece of the virus origin puzzle.
A renowned virologist, the deputy director at the Wuhan Institute, and the woman with the answer to the world's most burning question. Meet the Batwoman of Wuhan. Honored for service to her country and its people, unyielding in the face of adversity, Chinese virologist Shi Zhengli may have the answer to the question the world is asking. Did the coronavirus originate in her lab? She went on her first virus expedition in 2004, where she studied all kinds of bats, from those in colonies and caves to the ones from the subtropical regions in South China. Her research was aimed at understanding the SARS outbreak. In 2013 came the breakthrough, finding bat feces with a virus 96.2% identical to the SARS-CoV-2. In 2013, she began altering parts of the coronavirus, wanting to study if it could be transferred from one species to another. In 2015, she got her answer, a resounding yes. The SARS-like virus can be transmitted from bats to humans, and there is no known treatment for it.
I think we have done a good job. I can say that in a very short period, we finished the work of pathogen isolation, genome sequencing, and animal infection experiments.
In 2019, Shi's team had been called in to investigate the virus profile of a mine shaft in Yunnan's mountainous Moyang County, famous for its fermented pure tea. 6 miners were facing pneumonia-like diseases, among which 2 died. By the time she started analyzing the samples, it was too late. The disease had spread like wildfire. Undeterred, she is determined to continue her work, saying the mission must go on.
The unknown viruses that we have discovered are just the tip of the iceberg.
But she had to fight not just the invisible enemy, but also a growing international storm, with many questioning if the virus escaped from Shi's lab. Curiously, after her name appeared in local and foreign media, China's Batwoman conspicuously disappeared for months amid rumors that she had defected to a Western country, only to suddenly resurface and question former US President Donald Trump's allegation that the virus emerged from her institute. She claimed that the genetic code of SARS-CoV-2 did not match any samples in her lab. Many claim that these are more than just conspiracy theories, as the villain in the Wuhan virus story is none other than the Batwoman herself. It is said that she teamed up with Ralph S. Baric, an eminent coronavirus researcher at the University of North Carolina, and the two focused on enhancing the ability of the bat viruses to attack humans. But why? Why did this duo risk creating a microbial Frankenstein? Incredibly, the answer could have been the aim of preparing for mitigating the risks of future outbreaks.
Such work requires scientists and governments to be open, transparent and cooperative and work together to prevent and control some of these new infectious diseases.
But this is just half the story. There is a lot more. The Wuhan Institute of Virology was not just a civilian science academy. It partners the People's Liberation Army, from where the ruling CCP draws its power in China. The PLA is known to have had plans from 2015 itself to prepare bioweapons for the next world war, which is why she and her work will continue to carry the burden of global suspicion on her for many more years to come. With Saisha Ahluwalia, Ritangshu Bhattacharya for CNN News 18.
Now, there are some wild theories on the origins of the virus. We will not get into those. They are entertaining at best and damaging at worst. But understanding how and where a virus that has killed 38 lakh people across the world so far originated is very important. It is key to understanding how to predict, prevent and contain future pandemics. How credible is the lab leak theory? Yes, it was first propagated by Donald Trump and quickly dismissed as a right-wing racist conspiracy. But over the last 4 months or so, many scientists and researchers from across disciplines and geographies have collated evidence bit by bit to give it solid credibility. So strong is their logic that US President Joe Biden has now tasked his intelligence agencies to find an answer on the origin of the virus in the next 90 days. Take a look. Did the coronavirus seep out from animal cages at the Wuhan wet market? Did it travel from an abandoned copper mine where villagers dug for bat droppings? Was it an accidental leak from a lab? Or is it a biological weapon China has unleashed on the world? 18 months, 4 theories and no clear answers. Intelligence agencies in America now have 3 months to figure out the origins of a virus that has turned the world upside down. The lab leak was once dismissed as a right-wing racist conspiracy theory propagated by Donald Trump.
It's a disease, without question, has more names than any disease in history. I can name Kung Flu. I can name 19 different versions of names.
But this theory gained credibility when scientists, virologists, researchers and digital detectives started producing evidence to support it. At the center of the lab leak mystery is this building, the Wuhan Institute of Virology, where China's bat lady Shi Zhengli studies and isolates deadly viruses. Did the virus accidentally leak from here? She denies it, but the US State Department and independent investigators have found clues that point to that direction. The first big clue. The Wuhan Institute of Virology had discovered and isolated a bat coronavirus called the RATG13 that is a 96.2% match to COVID-19, and this they did way back in 2013. The institute had discovered the virus at an abandoned mine in Yunnan after 6 miners collecting bat droppings fell sick with pneumonia. They had patches on their lungs, much like COVID-19 patients. Then, 6 years later, 3 researchers from the Wuhan Institute of Virology fell ill, again with COVID-like symptoms. This happens in November 2019. A month later, China reports its first case of COVID-19. The conclusion is that the lab was constructing new viruses using different bat viruses, possibly to find vaccines. But the experiment went horribly wrong because of an accidental leak. Beijing has dismissed this theory as US hype and instead suggested that the virus came from Fort Detrick, a US Army base in Maryland. The WHO did send a team to China to study the origins of the virus. Half of the team was Chinese. They spent exactly 3 hours at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, met the bat lady, and came back with the conclusion that it was highly unlikely that the pandemic happened because of the virus leaking from this lab. Then where did the virus originate? Well, the WHO report is inconclusive but says that the most likely scenario is that it spread from animals to an intermediary host to humans. The report was shoddy, it didn't answer many questions, and there are demands now that the WHO, whose reputation has taken a big beating, investigate the origins of the virus again. But China, as expected, has shut its doors to any further investigations. What is it that they are hiding? In New Delhi, I'm Shreya Dhoundial. The WHO in its report has said that coronavirus in all likelihoods originated in animals and then passed on to humans, much like SARS, Ebola and bird flu. Did the virus actually pass from an infected animal to human, or was it the result of a lab accident? CNN's Dr. Sanjay Gupta is reporting on both theories.
I'm still struck by what former CDC Director Dr. Robert Redfield told me in February.
I am of the point of view that I still think the most likely etiology of this pathogen in Wuhan was from a laboratory, escaped.
For a lot of people, it was stunning. Not so much what was said, after all, the lab leak theory had been out there for some time, but rather that the former director of the CDC was the one saying it. Someone with access to raw data and intelligence many others didn't have.
That's the way I put it together.
After largely being dismissed by the scientific community, the lab leak theory is now gaining new momentum.
We know that all laboratories everywhere in the world have had accidents, continue to have accidents, despite our very best efforts to prevent them.
David Rauman is a microbiologist and professor at Stanford. He penned a letter, along with 17 other scientists in the journal Science, writing, quote, "More investigation is still needed to determine the origins of the pandemic. Theories of accidental release from a lab and zoonotic spillover both remain viable." According to the World Health Organization, this coronavirus is 96% similar to another virus found in bats known as RATG13.
It's not close enough to say that it's the exact virus that gave rise to this one in a simple evolutionary step. That kind of gap, 4%, means years, means decades in terms of natural evolutionary time.
And that evolution means something. Typically, after a virus makes the jump from animal to human, it sputters along, evolving, learning how to become more efficient. That takes time. With SARS-CoV-2, the virus seemed to come screaming out of the gates.
Normally when a pathogen goes from a zoonotic to human, it takes a while for it to figure out how to become more and more efficient in human-to-human transmission.
So in the lab, do you think that that process of becoming more efficient was happening? Is that what you were suggesting?
You know, most of us in the lab, we're trying to grow a virus. We try to help make it grow better and better so we can do experiments and figure out about it.
According to two people briefed on U.S. intelligence, well before the first cluster of cases in Wuhan was reported to the WHO on December 31, 2019, there were concerning reports of researchers from the Wuhan Institute of Virology becoming sick with some sort of pneumonia-like illness. Were they the first patients in the world to contract COVID?
Now, a lot of new facts and research on the origins of the coronavirus across disciplines came together on the most unlikely platform, Twitter. A group of scientists, virologists, researchers and digital detectives came together to form a group called Drastic. Their mission is, even right now, to scout every nook and cranny to gather evidence to answer that one question. Did China create a Frankenstein? Dr. Monali Rahalkar is a microbiologist and part of Drastic. She is joining me today on Debrief for a very quick chat. Dr. Monali, the dominant theory so far has been that the coronavirus was a natural virus. What made scientists like you question that theory?
The Lancet paper was published in February 2020, and it clearly was saying that the virus is natural, and in this condition we should believe all the Chinese scientists and support them, but there was no proof given. So this made me little suspicious and maybe more curious to find out more. So then came another paper which was also published in a very famous journal, Nature Medicine, by Christian Andersen. Christian Andersen paper was talking about again that the origin is natural, and the various hypotheses he gave they were not clearly convincing to me, because one of his reasoning was that that the next relative of SARS-CoV-2, RATG13, this could not be be a backbone to the artificial construct or something. So all these okay. And another thing which struck me that time was that I tried to search whether Wuhan has horseshoe bats, because they were saying that horseshoe bats are the reservoirs for the virus. So horseshoe bats are mainly found in the southern China, so Yunnan and Guangdong province, and these parts are around 1500 or 1800 kilometers from the Wuhan. So how could these bats directly jump on? Secondly, the intermediate host. So pangolin was projected to be the intermediate host, but the pangolins, but the papers which were saying that they were published in 15 days interval. There were 4 papers which were published that time, and that was also not very convincing to me, because the theories put forth were not very promising.
Okay. So in your view and the view of the Drastic scientists and researchers, what is it that China is hiding?
Some of the information was not disclosed. Like they disclosed the information part by part. For example, they did not tell us that this 4991 virus is RATG13 in the first paper.
Okay.
And then they did not tell us about their expeditions for 3 years. They just told that they surveyed this area for 1 year. But later on, in November 2020, that means around 11 or 12 months of the pandemic, then Zheng Shi published an addendum, and that time I had written a critique to this addendum, because many things seem to be changed. That she said that the miners had negative SARS-CoV-2 antibodies, but or SARS antibodies, but in our paper we have stated that there was a student student of George Gao. He's the CDC director. His student has stated that the miners had positive antibodies. So there are several discrepancies, what WIV told later on. And they gave the information very late. So this also is a little bit suspicious, that why did they put all this cover up? And the low security in their labs is also one point, which is another circumstantial evidence of a lab leak, because these viruses are supposed to be handled at level 4, but they were handling it at level 2 or level 3.
Okay. So now, if the circumstantial evidence, according to you, is lab leaks, are you and the Drastic group completely ruling out the bioweapon theory, that coronavirus is actually a bioweapon that has been unleashed by China on the world?
As such, I don't completely even rule out that bioweapon theory. It could be true, because right now we do not know many things. But as a scientist group, we do not want to say that directly, because there are no direct evidences. And another thing is, we do not know at this stage whether it was a artificial construct, because for it to be a bioweapon, I think we have to first prove that this SARS-CoV-2 was a completely artificial virus, which was used as a bioweapon.
Okay, so and there is no evidence of that. The evidence points to the fact that it's a natural virus, not an artificial virus. Finally, why has the Drastic team completely and drastically disregarded the WHO report?
Yes, the WHO, I would like to tell you that the WHO team was not alone. It was a WHO China joint team. So there were 17 people from WHO international group and 17 from the Chinese. So it was more, it was influenced by the China government probably, and they spent actually they did not have the mandate to investigate the lab leak hypothesis as such. They have clearly said that, and very less emphasis was given on whether it was coming out of the lab, even though there was so much circumstantial evidence. They looked at the market, and then they said that there were 80,000 animals which were negative. So all these theories were negative, but still they said that they were likely. Even the frozen food theory was likely, but the lab leak theory was completely unlikely according to them.
All right, Dr. Monali, thank you very much for joining us for this very interesting chat. China has many questions to answer, but does the United States of America have questions to answer as well on the origins of the Wuhan virus? That story coming up next. Do stay with us. Welcome Welcome back. Did the United States of America initially try to cover up the Wuhan Lab Leak theory? And if so, why? NC Satpathy has that report. In early 2020, a small group in the US State Department who had been studying the role of the Wuhan Institute of Virology for months acquired classified intelligence. This intel suggested that 3 researchers of WIV who were conducting gain-of-function experiments on coronavirus samples had taken ill in the autumn of 2019 before the start of the COVID-19 outbreak.
I am of the point of view that I still think the most likely etiology of this pathogen in Wuhan was from a laboratory, escaped.
They were advised not to say anything that would point to the US government's own role in this controversial research. Controversial because it aims to make dangerous viruses more infectious to study their effect on human cells. Do not open a Pandora's box, they were told. But President Trump, being President Trump, jumped the gun and went right ahead to claim that the virus was made in a Chinese lab.
There's a lot of theories, but yeah, we have people looking at it very, very strongly. Scientific people, intelligence people, and others.
What gives you a high degree of confidence that this originated from the Wuhan Institute of Virology?
I can't tell you that. I'm not allowed to tell you that.
Trump's premature statements were dismissed as conspiracy theories and the issue was buried till 2021. But months-long investigation by the revered Vanity Fair magazine have found that conflicts of interest have hampered the US investigation into COVID-19's origin. The report says that the US had actually provided funding for the study of coronaviruses and their transmissions through bats to the Wuhan Institute of Virology. The Pentagon, in fact, had given $39 million to a charity called Eco Health Alliance. The chief of this charity, a zoologist called Peter Daszak, repackaged this grant and allocated it to facilities conducting gain-of-function research, including the Wuhan lab. Then began the cover-up. Daszak began backroom campaigns to discredit the lab leak theory to cover his tracks. He signed and organized a statement in the medical journal Lancet in February 2020, rejecting the lab leak theory.
NIH has not ever and does not now fund gain-of-function research in the Wuhan Institute of Virology.
Do they fund Dr. Barrick?
We do not fund.
Do you fund Dr. Barrick's gain-of-function research?
Dr. Barrett does not doing gain-of-function research, and if it is, it's according to the guidelines, and it is being conducted in North Carolina.
However, top American scientists have adamantly denied that the US supported any gain-of-function research on coronavirus in Wuhan. With so many questions and no answers, US President Joe Biden has ordered a probe into the origins of the virus. But the questions are not just for China, but the US as well. With NC Satpathy, I'm Shreya Dhoundial. Wheels within wheels, it's the mystery of the century. With that, it's a wrap. Thanks for watching.